Friedle, thank you so much for coming in, dude. You are one of the early guests that I have, and I'm very appreciative to all my first guests because this is a learning process for me, and I'm happy to be doing it. But yeah, thanks, man, for coming in.
Yeah, I was just recently at the Newark airport, and someone asked me if I went on podcasts, and she was a complete stranger.
Okay.
And I said no, I hadn't. But now I have. So that lady
some random person
she knew.
Was just like, have you been on a
Well,
podcast?
she was chatting with me and then wanted to know,
Small talk.
If I have a podcast situation.
I could understand that because you have a look of like you're doing something,
Determination.
You're on TV or something. Or, but yeah, thanks for coming in. The whole theme of the show is like Northwest oriented. So, I've known Ben since, I don't know, 2015. So it's been a minute since I've like learned heard your story of how you came out here from the East Coast. Is that right? East Coast?
Yeah. I grew up in New York. I went to college in South Carolina, and I had started my career in Raleigh right at the .com bust, and I was working at a .com. And so I was young and in love. I was married, and we wanted to have an adventure. So being from New York, having lived down south, I'd lived in Colorado. We were like, let's do the West Coast. But we're smaller sized. We like nature a lot. We wanted, to not have a crazy cost of living and being too much in the rat race. And so that's
kind of how you came out here.
Yeah.
What do you mean smaller size? Your family?
No. I was familiar with New York. I was familiar with Atlanta. I was familiar with San Francisco, and I just wanted a smaller city.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah.
And that was in, what year was that?
2001.
Okay. So yeah, I like people that have been here a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Because like my past couple guests are like more recent. And
I've been holding it down.
I've been here not as long as you, but 2006. So.
Yeah, well, you meet a lot of people in Portland who want to talk about how long they've been around. And so,
yeah,
I wait and then I pounce on them after they get comfortable.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, was there any other like to that story, or it was just kind of like
no sight unseen?
Pretty much what you said.
Yeah, I literally came sight unseen. I had everything on my back. I loaded up a pickup truck and a U-Haul, and Jed, who's the other reason we know each other, he drove my other car.
Okay.
And legit, I had nothing here, no reason. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, we'll put a picture of Jed up too. I've been doing that just for context. Jed's a great guy too.
He's the best. He deserves it.
And Ben and I worked together for a couple years in like 2015. He's my creative director, and one of the things I was going to tell you, because a couple days ago I had my other creative director on, who's younger than me, who is at the company I'm at now, and actually he left a couple months ago. But I have this whole thing, and you have to like connect back to the earlier episode. But I want to have both of you guys on at some point and do fun. Like a thing where you just talk about how shitty of an employee I was, or just stories about us and stuff. And he's also saying, like, you'll see it in the episode, but he's very into his hair. And I was like, you guys are both very big hair guys. Funny. And like, so anyway, he's kind of like getting competitive and like, this guy sucks and all this stuff. He's joking, but
yeah, well, I always remember for my 40th birthday, I'd asked my family and friends to roast me. Mm-hmm. And you put that edit together of the roast, and there's so many funny things in there, because I like how, growing up in New York, just talking a lot of smack and kind of snapping, was like a way to get attention and be funny and be quick-witted. And I loved like getting people to crystallize like how they would make fun of me.
Yeah.
Who would, like my dad, my mom, my brothers and sisters, and then just people.
Yeah.
And like one of my quietest friends, Eric, he went on for like 20 minutes. He had all this stuff he wanted to get off his chest, and I loved it. It made me so happy. So thank you for doing that.
It's good. I'm a like roast appreciator. I feel like you are too.
Big
and like,
time.
Some people can't like get into that, but I love it.
I know, it's funny. I always think of the roast format of affection in my family.
Yeah.
So if you want to grab the mic in my family and be loud, they're like, have at it, and they heckle the hell out of you, and they don't stop. It's like, it's fun, and it's fun to watch my kids go through it too, because they live here and they're kind of soft.
Yeah.
In the sense of teasing and such, and then like everybody in my family would just be mean to them and pick on them.
Yeah.
And they don't get it, but then they leave that experience each time a little more ready for it.
Okay. Because I was just gonna ask, is that weird? Because you go out there sometimes and like, I don't know, is that weird? Like those two different like acceptance of comedy of like, it's all good out there, but then,
no, I love that. I hate people who are too sensitive, don't have a sense of humor about themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, in the context of my life, right? I get that some things aren't funny and some people don't feel like joking around, but in like if you're hanging out with me and we're friends, there's no way we became friends if you can't do all that. Yeah.
There's no real boundaries in that sense. Yeah.
And you'd think I was obnoxious, and you'd think I talk too much, and you wonder why I'm always pointing out little things that you're subconscious about.
Yeah.
And I'd be like laughing.
Yeah. So one of the things I want to talk about was like your time as a creative director, and it's been years since like I worked with you, but like, what's it like now compared to like back then? And I'm assuming like that's kind of what you're still doing. And
yeah, I think when you and I were working together, I had so many things yet to learn that I wanted to learn, and so I was open to a lot of experimentation and trying a lot of things, and I was always focused on agile, nimble setups, and you were great at that because you were totally that way. You have all these things you'll strong arm by yourself. So I learned a lot working together with you and my cousin David about how to keep it light but keep it looking good. Mm-hmm. And now I'm more into the gig. I want to surround the gig, do it very well, make sure that it just is like a home run in the business process of it. I just spent a week in San Francisco working with a IT company, and the dude I had with me is like a music video person. His name's Tiki. Shout outs to Tiki. He used to be a Portland creator, and then he moved to LA to try to get more exposure. And what we talked about a lot through the week was, as I matured, I really just wanted a product. I wanted something that people felt really good. The money was right, the budget was right, and the deliverable was right. Mm-hmm. And Tiki is still very much making music videos and travel and finding looks and trying new looks. And for me, it's all a lot of workflow stuff these days. And I like the look that I have, and I like the look that I'm known for. Yeah, which is business professional.
Okay. Yeah, no, it's interesting. I see what you mean, like personally for you, or like as a creator. I was also wondering more in the sense of just like the era, because one of the things I want to talk about was like, and I don't want to get too into this because AI drives me crazy right now, but like how much AI, like if you're doing anything with that now, but you see what I'm saying, like how today it compares with, what was that, I guess almost 10 years ago now? Or
yeah, I really always had a sales and marketing customer service approach to my creative, and the limitations of either a camera or technology or what I felt a trend was, sort of something like that, I was very oblivious to. I've always kind of been focused on the people on the phone, the people that are hiring me, and the people on my team. And I think the creative trends that I always grabbed onto were sort of the documentary look, a workflow that was simple enough to execute sort of well without too much like rigmarole. I don't have a lot of studio experience, long setups, those sorts of things. And I think also a lot for me is, where is it going to bring either me professionally or the people that I'm working with professionally, right? Mm-hmm. And at that time, a lot of what we were trying to do was think for websites, bringing in lead generation, telling stories about brands, and storytelling was like an ad nauseum word at that time. Yeah. And I see a lot of people right now trying to outthink the creative, thinking they can just lightweight it, phones, AI, tools and tricks. And that's always been there. So I've been in e-commerce since 2001 and was always doing marketing and was always doing creative work. And I really always felt like that stuff was like candy, to that profession. Some people get into gear. Some people get into software. I've always been into the people. I like whatever the story is we're going to talk about and the people I'm going to be hanging out with that day, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because I was just thinking of asking you, like, what do you think, even like within work and outside of work, of the whole, like the TikTok culture and like that, this like short form style of, you know what I'm saying? Like, do you do work like that now?
No.
Or? Okay.
I don't, but I think people get paid on it. I mean, that's what I think a lot of that drives anything I've dealt with marketing, and people, doing like backstage footage, behind the scenes footage for TikTok later for this big production that's going to come out. It's just a lot of the creator economy is so big and such a integrated part of people's lives now. Like kids who never went to college know more about marketing than they taught you in the 1990s about marketing in college. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous what our textbooks were teaching you compared to the basic knowledge that all freaking kids have now. And for me, it's not about short form or long form in the sense of the why. It's more like I'm not that prolific, right? I'm not creating stuff all the time. I personally don't get any excitement about maintaining heavy duty output.
Volume,
Yeah, for visual arts, I like oil painting. That's a very slow process. It's very personal, one-on-one. For business, I like relationships again, right? The thing I'm putting out the most is like care, how you been, where you at, anything around the corner, sort of keeping in touch with the people who inspire me or keep me wanting to be in business, right? Because that's always the thing with me, is always the team. It's the only reason I was in business.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because like I've always struggled with that too, and it's one of the things I'm like sort of happy about doing this. I've only done like 4 episodes, but because I'm traditionally been the same way of like I'll make a sketch like every 3 years or something, that because I'm so selective and like I want it to be like perfect and polished and stuff. But I struggle with that like lo-fi culture of today with video especially. And so anyway, but I'm trying to do with this, like it's a good feeling to be like, oh, okay, now once a week I can put something out.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a different format of content, but yeah, that's interesting that I feel like we are on the same page with that.
Yeah, my page is money.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been and it is.
Yeah.
I grew up in a place where it's country. It was influenced by New York City, but it wasn't in New York City. And a lot of people there, I was the first person in my family to go to college, go to a 4-year school. I came from everybody knew a trade. And so for me, my big fear of finishing college was like, well, how am I going to make a living doing this? Right? Whatever this stuff is. Because I didn't have anybody telling me, oh, call so-and-so and they'll get you a job and you got to go to HR. I didn't know nothing. And so what ended up being my thing was like, well, does that pay good? Does this pay good? To start. And then it was, oh yeah, people are paying for that. Oh yeah. Like I did SEO, search engine optimization. I did that because I saw how many people were billing on SEO.
Yeah.
Well, eventually.
And still today, it's pretty.
Oh yeah. I mean, they gave up on that shit, in my opinion. They're just like, we'll pay for the ads. What is the ad program? Oh, okay, yeah. Here's money for that. When I started with that, the idea was to get around the ads, But slowly, you just saw the takeover, where they owned every piece of real estate, and the idea that you're going to occupy the top slot and keep a client happy was getting like thinner and thinner. And so people were just, well, we'll manage the ad buy for you. We'll make sure your exposure is right. We'll put, and again, tips and tricks. Everybody thinks, oh, well, they must know the best way to get it to the thing. It's like, yeah they do. Pay. You will make every ad appear. Pay.
You want eyeballs? It takes money. Yeah.
And I also, throughout my creative sort of creating an identity, I realized that money was a big part of that, in the sense of what I did to kind of feel good inside was like what you do to go work out. I was doing it because I didn't want to have demons and be a crazy person, right? I wanted to express myself. But when I'm in the office or I'm at work, I'm selling creative services, so I feel happy. I'm lucky. I like that a lot. But in the end, I'd never be happy if it wasn't profitable, if budgets weren't on, if money wasn't right, if the people around me weren't getting paid and feeling motivated. It's like, it just doesn't work for me. There's very few projects that I do just thinking, oh, this is going to be fun. And I do them, but there's very few.
Yeah. I see what you mean. Yeah. Cause there's a certain sense of fulfillment I think you get from, it's like, I'm making money and I'm enjoying this, and obviously money is like the biggest part of that, but well, and for a business,
when you look at what it is to be creative for commercial art or whatever, the more you're gonna struggle over, they gave me feedback, they changed it again, they rejected the best idea, the more you struggle over that, the shorter career you're gonna have in it, because it just drive you freaking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of like the old tropes are like one for them, one for me, whatever. Sure, whatever balance of that works out right for you, you should definitely do it.
Yeah.
And I also think that the technical part of telling, engineering, science, medicine, all that stuff, very intriguing to me too. So it was always cool to me to do these kind of businessy, engineering, geeky things, because I got to see a lot of stuff that I love to know about.
Yeah. Yeah, I always forget you are super into science and bios and all that stuff.
And how things are made.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the only reason I get to go to that party is because I got a camera and know how to make videos, right? Yeah. Otherwise, those dudes, they're busy. They don't want to,
Yeah.
Remember when we made the organ thing? We went to an organist's house.
Oh, yes. Oregon. I think you said the state. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
Oregon.
Oregon.
Yeah, I got you.
And that was like, that day was so low key.
Yeah.
Just sitting in this man's house listening to play organ for hours. And I had a great time. It's my favorite instrument. I love the history of the instrument. I wanted to know how it was put together. I wanted to know how he acquired all of them, right?
Yeah.
And the camera was my passport. I'm sure he's a nice guy and I could go talk to him, but it was more the trade of his knowledge for mine and yours.
Yeah. No, that was a fun project. Lewis Payne, right?
Yeah, Lewis Payne.
I could put a link in or something, but you guys should check it out. But yeah, I think I have that same natural curiosity. It's one of the reasons I want to do this show. But even on camera, it's just interesting to be around people like that and I can get a shot of. I like the verite stuff of they don't really know you're shooting and because you get real authentic kind of people. I feel like, but I also wanted to. It's funny because you mentioned growing up, sort of learning the streets, I guess, on the East Coast and learning how to make money. Because I wanted to shout you out because Ben, you have saved my ass a lot of times when I was almost broke and gave you some freelance work, and I was really appreciative of that. And,
man.
But anyway, I wanted to ask you. This is kind of a weird question. I'm trying to keep it in the realm of comedy, but you remember how? Shout out to Jed again. You remember how Jed would write these really long crafted emails? I heard this question on another podcast, so I'm kind of stealing it. But did you ever fire off an email at work that you were just an hour or two later, you're just God damn it, I don't know if I should have sent that or
no,
nothing like that?
Well, it's funny. Inside, the way I view a lot of things where you end up in those situations where you want to give somebody a piece of your mind, or you feel hell no, I'm not going to take that. None of that satisfaction comes for me from email.
Totally.
Yeah.
I'm the same way. It's got to be a phone call or.
Well, it's got to be in space too.
Yeah.
It's sort of hey, disrespectful person, what's up? Was that me you were disrespecting? You know, because it's the only way I'll feel different. Anything I say in email or this or that, you know, for me, it's like when you're getting to a point that you have like that angst of, you know, this situation.
Yeah.
Best way to get it over with is to see people face to face. And the funny thing about me too is, like, Jed is giving people all these details, right? But I understand nobody has an attention span. Nobody cares at all about all the stuff you're writing.
Just gonna hit spam.
Yeah, they're just like, done. Is it done? Is it done? It is not done, Jed. What are all these questions? That looks like work. And for me, I know that that's the case, right? And so all of my approach to like regret at work comes from not winning, right?
Yeah.
Anything that would make me feel that way is being rejected. Like, hey man, we're sorry to let you know you didn't get the job, but we're gonna keep your resume on the phone.
Yeah.
Future things arrive. By then I'm like driving over there, like, you throw my stuff in the trash, don't ever call me. You know, that's like the little temper tantrum I need to have.
Yeah.
And then I always suck it up, go back, get the feedback, say, why didn't I get picked?
Yeah. When it's all driven from competition and being competitive.
Hell yeah.
But I didn't necessarily mean like a contentious. It doesn't have to be like that. Like,
okay.
But I see what you're saying, because I'm the same way of like,
That's how I think.
If it has that weight to it, I'm probably not going to put an email in it. And I have the same rule for texting. Like, I have this rule that I tell people at work, like, if you paragraph text me, that's an immediate red flag, just of who you are. And also, I'm like, just call me. Like, I'm not going to write a novel on my phone and like text you. And
so tell me more. So I don't have many things where I regretted anything to do with business communication.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's fine. I just think it's funny.
It's like, just money again.
Yeah.
If we didn't make the money happen, I didn't get paid, I'm like red in the neck, furious.
Yeah.
Everything else, I'm sort of like, that's business.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to. I thought maybe there'd be a funny answer there, but I kind of knew that you're not that type of person to write an email.
All right.
Where do you see, like, I don't know much about like the Portland agency market right now. I've been out of that world for a while, and I'm just curious how that compares with when we were doing it. Is it still like pretty active and thriving?
Yeah.
And
Mm-hmm. I think the main thing is the pyramid of it all. Through my tenure, which is about 16 years, more of the bigger people have arrived and created themselves, you know?
Okay.
And so it used to be a few big agencies, some 20 to 50 agency, right? And then like tons of 1 to 5 or 1 to 10 employees. So I still think that is the same, a lot of turnover, because that world is all about a key client and then filling in the gaps, right? It's like, oh, there's 5 of us and we got this great account, and then we're going to go hustle out all this other business in different shapes and sizes. Then when it's, 20 to 30, you now have some nice built-in project management, account management, layers of things that are making, allow you to integrate with the customer and see yourself more aligned with like being meaningful to them, right? And then those people who, get towards 100 and plus and kind of now have like a bigger reputation, they're getting clients from major city, competing on price in these major cities, and really have like a super diverse approach to how they pull things off for a campaign, right? So if they are masterful at certain channels, if they're able to move from some in-person experience to the media that supports that really well, I think in Portland there's more of those people now than it was then. And I think it's still just as random sometimes when you begin talking to people about where they met their customers, what their bread and butter is. There's a lot of that align with an industry and get purchased, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It makes a lot of sense. And when I was going through the process of learning how to exit an agency, a lot of what you heard was most people get bought by their customer. You know, their big customer sucks them up and puts them into work inside.
Yeah.
And then the other one is someone in an industry likes what you're doing, sees that you know a lot about that industry, and is going to bring you in to do maybe a certain channel, maybe a certain product line. Or, and I think that the agency scene in Portland too is also like, you know, I'll see in a specialty in the industry and a specialty in the marketing type, where I saw a lot more full service in the past, you know, which is kind of back to like, I'm going to give you a website, a brochure, an identity. I'll give you a plan for how to move forward with that.
Yeah.
You won't do the plan. In 2 years, you'll ask me the password to log into your website. I won't know it. There's like a lot of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I also think the talent pool in Portland right now, I don't know as too much about.
Okay.
In the most recent sense. But every time I'm inside of the big companies or talking to my friends who are in the industry, so many talented people, all ages, and it's a really impressive thing that creatively Portland represents, and there's a lot of people here who can do a wide range of creative stuff. Yeah.
Do you think there's like something to that? I had a guest on like a week or so ago that was saying like, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's obvious, but like just because of the like climate of the Northwest and all that stuff, you get this collection of people that's creative, and like, I can't really phrase it the way she did, but it's something about like the contrast of the ecosystem and the people here and stuff. And I've just, you know, it's why I moved here, and like it just has such an interesting, like, you know, I like filmmaking, but it's such a niche, like it's mostly like stop motion that got Portland going. And, you know, you could also argue a lot of the work we've done with like Nike, not Nike, but Adidas and Nike and the footwear people. And
yeah, I think anyone who works in those big ecosystems, the amount of stuff they don't get to do is frustrating because they understand all these different approaches, right? They respect fashion, they respect design, they respect typography, they respect composition, color, right? But you're not going to get to play in all that stuff at work all the time, right? Especially when the project gets deep and you're like going towards launch and something's happening, right? That becomes like work. Hit a deadline, do a thing, get it done.
Yeah.
So then you have this like outburst of creative energy that comes from being inside of this production place. And then you're just like, I'm going to throw that off, and I'm going to make an outdoor brand, and I'm going to style it all myself, and I'm going to do a photo shoot with my friends in their trucks. You know, and I've seen a lot of that. I see a lot of people do that. And I think it's simply from, yeah, man, I can figure this stuff out. I know how to do all this stuff. And I want to do all this stuff. Like, I had a ambition to figure out a way to integrate my art and my business life for the longest time.
Because you do really cool paintings, I want to say, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah. I ultimately decided that, like, the integration for me wasn't what was missing. I didn't need to mix art and business from the duality of self. What I needed to do was free my time up in a non-stressful way. So instead of chasing money in the sense of trying to maximize a business, grow sales, things like that, I wanted to maximize time by achieving a very steady, confident business life and making sacred my creative time and my art time, and just coming clean with like, I don't really have a reason. I don't have a purpose. There's nothing I'm trying to prove. I'm not trying to hit a milestone.
Yeah.
But I'm always going to be creative, and I'm going to look towards that as like mental health, you know, the way, or mental fitness. Yeah. And the way of like keeping myself happy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so funny because like I was just thinking, like, I was talking to somebody about this like in the past few weeks. I work with a lot of younger people, and it's it's funny when you see a young person and a creative like get to that point of like they haven't lost the passion, but it's like all I'm getting is like just stuff people want made, you know?
Yeah.
And it's I was trying to explain to some people like that's when you can kind of export that to like your own projects, and it sounds kind of like what you're talking about. But what I was gonna say is when I was working with you, I didn't really feel that, and like there's been a couple roles like that where I'm like I'm fulfilled enough just with the stuff that I'm doing. I did make some stuff on the side, but like not paid, but just comedy stuff. But do you know what I mean? Like I got enough fulfillment out of that, just like with the Oregon video and all that stuff. And
I think when you have mentally challenging aspects to the project outside of just your ideation, where you're sort of like, how do I understand this? You know, what is this? Like, who is the audience? You really can turn a couple more knobs on the satisfaction part of it, right? Mm-hmm. Where you're like, damn, I didn't know anything about this whole industry. And I did learn some of that. But we also made a lot of good choices in what we built and what we created. And I'm also really happy about that, you know. And I also, when it comes to the work that you do for promoting something, you know, the sky's the limit. We pin ourselves to like terms like professionalism or, oh, here's a sample I like, maybe something like that. But none of that is the case for when it comes to getting attention or getting publicity or winning someone over, you know. I think that's the one flexible mindset I always try to maintain is, you know, we don't have to just sound like your competitors and be like the other people because that's comforting to you. You know, if you really just want to get attention, we could be more creative with it. And very few people choose that route in business, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because that's one of the reasons. I don't know if you can see. You can probably see these on the Wide Shop, but I love Liquid Death and I love this company. And one of their rules, their marketing is like insane. Like, you should check it out sometime. Yeah. But they have this rule of like, whenever they do marketing or like a video project, it's like they go with the dumbest idea first. Because they're just like, everyone is so used to thinking that way of like, let's do what they do and like let's try to emulate this. And so I don't know. It's like classic thinking outside the box, I guess. But
well, and there's people who are set to that, and it's fun when you have those people on your team, right? The only idea they like is the one other people didn't have. Yeah, you know, that's a type of creative, and I love some of the stuff that you can come up with working with a person like that. I think it's the hardest stuff to get approved, you know, and get funded a lot of the time, but the like value of what they're promoting is in the right spot. I just think a lot of times too, you see this like empty ass effort around creative at work, you know, where people are just sort of like, yeah, you know, do the one we do, and creatives, you're just like, I do not want to do that. And I always felt like being at the agency, we got to try all those ideas ourselves and see what we actually like, because we could go far enough then, and we weren't asking people's permission to do that. You know, we're doing that because it felt good. And then in the end, you know, you end up good, better, best maybe, or out there right on target, on target with the sweet spot, you know.
Yeah. Did you ever have something like that, you know, there's a lot of like RFPs and stuff that those can get kind of boring, but do you ever have a pitch of any kind that you were just disappointed that didn't get greenlit?
We tried to build a foam mascot for a science pipetter company. So
okay. Was this after I was working with you? Or?
I don't know. During maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
But a pipetter, you suck up liquid and you spit it into a tray, and you do that all day, you know, if you work inside a lab. And we were super close to convincing them to creating a pipette mascot, and then we were just going to go to laboratories and colleges and places and see if we could get a reaction out of people, you know, and see like what brand identity existed out there. Because the thing, you know, inside of those conversations is once you hit your real target audience, a person who's in a lab with a pipetter all day, that's funny.
Yeah.
Right. They're going to be like, let me get a picture with that.
I would crack up.
Yeah. And then the people, can have this physical possession at the end that you send to the client to have at their office. That's like their mascot that they could do funny things with. So it was a solid pitch. But you know what they went for? This standard sort of. I think the creative thing on that one is we had an artist make art with the pipette.
Okay.
And
like there's like ink coming out of this.
Yeah, they were using ink on paper, and it was a struggle. They tried. They did a good job.
It'd be fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, in the sense of like that's another shot in a video sort of thing, and that's what it was. It was just trying to drive home some of the language they put into the campaign. But yeah, I think of that one. I also, a lot of the times, come back to where you can put a spotlight on someone at work in a way that's like kind. Mm-hmm. So one of the big things for me inside of work life is culture. And why do so many places have bad culture? Why do so many places feel depressing when you walk inside? There's like no shine on the walls, You're just like, what's wrong in here? And when they bring me someone and says, yeah, this is so-and-so, and they took advantage of this feature at work or this benefit, or we want to get more people to know their story, I feel really great about that. And I think there's a lot of kindness built into like giving someone the full treatment that has just been a hard worker at work, never complained about anything, just did their job really well. And now the video team's going to come in and put all the lights up and make them look good and make them feel good. I love that.
Yeah. People finally get their kind of moment. And
yeah. I think a lot of my fun memories about my work life always relate to getting like completely exhausted on something.
Yeah.
Like I just before I came over here finished up something that I'd been working on for 40 hours, and to my delight it was super hard and took everything I had for a minute. I love that spot. I mean, with fine art it's a lot about like getting to a show or getting to some sort of milestone, because that's when you're creatively, you're just like, no, but there's another hour. Oh, there's 2 hours. Let's go. Mm-hmm. You want to. And that is my happiest memories of like, man, that project was so freaking hard and we got it done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny because just on Friday with the other creative director, I was trying to get that out of him because like we shot this like 20-minute Western when he was still working at my work, and it was just, we rented this like a little Western town here by the airport, and some of my favorite memories were from that because it's like, we had like 3 12-hour days and like everyone's just gassed out and like, but I've had a lot of those with it at your company as well. Like I remember editing, videos in Las Vegas until like 3 a.m. and then you go down in the morning and like show it to people. And sometimes like they'll fuck up aspects of it. But it's still just like rewarding in the sense of like, oh man, we really pulled this off. And like,
yeah, I got a standing ovation at one of those, and it was memorable to me because I feel so a part of the fixtures some of those trips, right? There's hundreds of people, you're running around shooting footage, shooting pictures and stuff, but what they were applauding was the culmination of how well it came off. And it felt like, they see me. They see that I'm in the, all the corners with the camera, and I'm trying to get one more shot, and I'm trying to get them to like look good for the big night when they're up on the big screen and all their friends and coworkers see them.
Yeah.
Right. And, it's always nice to get recognized. It's not that part of it alone. It's just sometimes you feel like, I don't know. Nobody's gonna care. No, what's the difference? That sort of thing. And then when people really want to hug you up and tell you, "Man, you're the best. I can't believe that's so cool. And man, that's the best picture someone took of me," or whatever.
Yeah,
I feel great.
Well, yeah, it's funny because to me it makes total sense of like your desire to like help culture and stuff at companies, because you become part of the culture at that point. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like that's kind of a role of. I would like to see more people kind of inhabit, is understanding that there's no way the culture here is going to get better if you don't bring energy, starting there, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe if you bring some energy, you might get a little +1 or whatever. And so often I just want people to step up. It was one of the first things I did leaving college, going into that .com, was join their culture team. They said they had a culture team. And I was like, what do we got to do? And they're like, get people to show up and eat a birthday cake, please.
Play some hacky sack.
We had
something.
ping pong in the lunchroom. And I was just like, well, people don't want to do that. And it was funny because they did not want to do that. The idea of taking a break at work to, get to know each other better, or to stay an hour late because, there was an opportunity to mingle or something like that. People were just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to. And I understood that too. You want to go home. Yet, every inch that you climb of making your workplace a little better is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And you go there all the time, So it's worth showing up a little bit at work.
Yeah. It's funny, that you mentioned that, because I feel like the places I've worked, it almost becomes like a phantom. Like, you don't even think about it until you're like, oh, I'm like staying late, and like it's just fun, and damn it, I gotta go home because I gotta feed my dog or whatever. And like, but you almost just don't even notice, because at that point you're just embedded in the culture and the workplace. And and a lot of people, I guess the ultimate would be like you become true friends, and
That is the ultimate. Yeah. And when you have a career that lasts a while, you see like, oh, I stayed in touch with that person. Like legit, that person moved jobs 3 times and each time brought me back.
Yeah.
And I have deep appreciation for all that too, because it just makes me feel like you got people's trust and you could be real with them, and you could, depend on them. They could depend on you. That's good.
Yeah. I'm asking everyone this. And it can be like as goofy as you want. I heard an incredible Sasquatch story a couple days ago.
All right.
When I started talking about this, but is there anything in the Northwest that's like your absolute favorite? It could be a place, person.
I have a million. So, the Steens Mountains, it's definitely super gorgeous.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, people do not know.
Okay.
And they don't go there because it's so far. It's in the bottom corner of Oregon. So far east is north of Nevada.
Dude, are you fucking kidding me? I was seriously last night, because I'm from Lakeview, which is like close to the southeast corner of Oregon. Mm-hmm. And last night I was looking at Google Maps, and that corner, is that what you're talking about? Mm-hmm. Because there's literally no towns down there, and there's like a big...
So it's granite as opposed to basalt. That's one thing about the Steens.
Okay.
They have wild mustangs. One side of it drains into the Mount Hewar wetland, and so there's this huge glacial carve called Kiger Gorge, which is like a half pipe. The symmetry of it is so perfect.
I'm like 90% sure this is what I'm looking at pictures of yesterday.
Believe it.
Yeah.
And then off the far side is Alvaroid. So it's big, flat, open area. So you're all the way at the top of the Steens. It's a sharp, dramatic cliffs. And then you get this expansive view of this dry area, which you're kind of like experiencing, in the cold of high mountain air. And then you look the other way, and it's this huge reflective water area, because the Mount Hewar wetlands are gigantic. And yes, and there's wild horses in the Steens Mountains, just geologically and from a remote standpoint, made a huge impression on me, and I love them. I also will take jaunts for like my birthday or for a family trip or something, just go to every little nook and cranny. So I did probably 3 times around Oregon, where you just take a loop and you stop at places you hadn't stopped at the time before. And like, it's always the same, where it's viewpoints or waterfalls or forests or something of that nature. But each time there's something that happens that's really another new best, where you'll be like, damn. Like the first time I went to the Wallowas, I was blown away. The Wallowa Mountain Range, I came up through Enterprise, we came up to the backside. It was just one of those things where you're like, this looks like what, Switzerland seems like, or the Alps seem like to me. And here it is in Oregon. The Eagle Cap Wilderness, that's the largest wild roadless area. Okay. I love the
I'm sorry, I was curious. How do you even get, like, it's all on foot?
Well, it's like ATV roads and logging roads, and people, obviously everything is so well documented that if you just get a little familiar, you get so much deeper into how to navigate these spaces or do a thing inside of those spaces. That's really cool. Yeah. I love the Olympic National Park. I feel like that's one of those places where it gives you a deep appreciation for how ancient all the forests were at one point in time. And coming from the East Coast, I would have loved to seen hardwood trees that are as old as the trees in the Olympics. It really can put context to your imagination, Yeah. And I've gone in there for a week or two at a time and just never see people, barely, on the trail you pass some people, but if you just bushwhack a little bit, you don't see anybody. Have these beautiful nature areas all to yourself. Kind of incredible. I just went for the first time over Christmas down to Gold Beach.
Okay. Yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
The geology there is unique. There's 3 geological events that happened all in one area. And so the way the rocks are carved, the shapes of them within the sea, it's just so inspiring and so dramatic and one of a kind. I shoot a Canon R5 right now.
Okay.
And so I had some long lenses and was taking pictures of these different rocks and then just zooming and zooming for days on all the little different ways that they hardened and the patterns that come from the geology. There was this look that was like a million bubbles all throughout the stone where harder stones were trapped in something that, is now eroding from the sea. And just these looks I had never seen. And I was really taken by that area. And I was surprised it took me so long to get down there, but it's where California meets Oregon, naturally. You see redwoods mixed in with spruce and fir and really dramatic waves that week because it was king tide where the moon gets closer. So the waves and the tide come in farther and the waves are larger. Yeah. It was a beautiful week.
That's cool. That's so funny. Now, we got to make this creative director episode happen because that's Ren was saying the same thing, and he's not really a native Oregonian, but he was just talking a lot about how the coastline falls into the geology, and that's unique to. Because I was telling him, I'm like, dude, I've lived here my whole life, and I'm kind of just I don't know. You lose the perspective of how special it is. And, but he was talking about almost like you are. So it's really interesting to hear because I'm just I grew up going to Gold Beach and stuff every summer, and you kind of lose appreciation for it. But yeah.
Well, shame on you. How about that?
This is kind of. Do you have any weird? It could be Sasquatch or anything like that. Do you have anything weird like that in the Northwest?
No, I don't have anything
UFOs
that I can think of. Except all the weird ass people, and the folklore of it all are scary. There have been times where you walking through the woods and you see the bear claws down a tree where they rub the bark or stretching on it. And you're just someone around here.
Pretty terrifying as well.
I hope he left.
Yeah.
But no.
Okay, that's all right. I just thought of this question a second ago because I've been watching. Bob Ross has a YouTube channel that has a 24-hour thing. It's his official.
Oh, really?
They've licensed all the stuff.
They did it?
But I never really sat there and watched it, but I'm curious, are you a fan? Because I sit there and watch it with no sound, and I'm like, damn, this guy's talented, and I just didn't appreciate it as a younger person.
Yeah, so I'm a fan of, that job of saying to the world, there's this other thing out there that you might like trying. Go ahead and try it. That I'm a huge fan of.
Making it look easy kind of thing.
And that you just don't have to be a painter. It doesn't have to be some identity where it's that's what you're kind of raised believing, where you just had to bleed for the art, and he was born with the art and the paintbrush, and that's just, I love when you see it commonplace.
Yeah.
Because that's really, I remember a small documentary where this man was bringing art projects to a halfway house, but it was large scale. It was in New York City. And so different people there have different abilities and situations in life. And all he was doing is just bringing art projects, and he would create an idea just off the cuff. One day he saw a huge log, and he just brought this log up there, and he created such a commotion, right? And in contemporary art, you know, that is a genre that you kind of explore. It's like, what does setting this object into a space do to the people? Like, what are they going to do now that we put this object in their proximity and kind of close them into it?
Yeah.
And bringing this huge log into that place, like, set it abuzz. And I just got that. I understood, like, what he's doing is helping bring a practice that's foreign. And by seeing him go through this nothing process, you know, he's not perfecting anything. He's not making it so that he's got this craft that you just adore and you're waiting for the next glimpse. You know, it's not like that. It's like, oh, I'm making more art today. Here I am. Yeah, we're going to make a sculpture out of this log. And people are there like, you should just use firewood. Use your sense for once. And chastising him. And he's laughing and saying, well, what fun would that be? You know? And like, that struck me as a great way to build a body of work. And what Bob Ross always struck me as is he brought it to everybody's house. So he brought this idea that like, oh, there's all these kinds of brushes. Oh, and look, when you make it this way, it looks just like a reflection. Oh, here's how you cut in a shadow. You know, well, now I'm going to use the knife. The knife doesn't cut the canvas. And all of those little details I do remember being first exposed to by him. And as an adult, I respect whenever people kind of bring things to the masses like that.
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah, I guess I just never like paid attention when I was younger to like, I was just like, oh, he's like a good painter, but but I was when I was watching it, he's like, you can actually use like stuff at home to like do this and like you know, so it is really kind of democratizing.
Well, in you know, what comes to, oh, these are the kind of paintings I like. Oh, I've been to a lot of different museums and this is my favorite, you know, era. I always go and check out this one or whatever. My personal feeling about all that is if you're in the museum, you're winning. If you look at art books and have some art books and you know, get some of that going, you're winning. Because you got to keep your 360 self prepared, right? So it's like the mind, body, spirit. And I don't think you should get too chubby. I don't think you should get too dumb, right?
It's all like diets of all the consistency.
All the things, yeah. And like, I was making this joke where when I see people do the before and after thing, I don't care. I'm not proud of you for losing a little bit of weight because you let yourself go. Now, do I say good on you for getting to the gym and reminding yourself, yeah, I can be in okay shape. I don't have to be so lethargic. At the same time, if I heard a bodybuilder got a library card, I'm not impressed. I don't think that, wow, read? You? No, I think, we should be learning all the things. And the hard one is the spirit, right?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that,
Yeah, and that's where art comes in. And art kind of populates that space. And that's why faith is so popular, right? As a concept, is because when you feel empty and you feel just worn down, you're like, I'm going to pray on it. I'm going to go read about this spiritual philosophy. I'm going to try to figure out which way is up. Because right now I can't really figure it out so well, you know. And I've used all of those through my life. I've used art. I've used faith. I've used religion.
Yeah. It's filling the same cup.
The woo.
Yeah.
I've done, you know.
Yeah.
We're in Oregon. You hang out with some people and they're like, have you tried microdosing?
Yeah, microdosing.
Like, at brunch?
Crystal energy, all that stuff.
Yeah, crystals. I have friends who know all about that stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't, you know, I don't do nothing but listen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
In the sense of, do, you know, we want to argue? No, I don't want to argue with you. I'm here to be your friend. And you like crystals, tell me all about them.
Yeah, that's funny because, I feel like I used to, when you get older, it just kind of happens, I guess. But I used to do that. I used to just be like, oh, I'm going to beat this person down mentally and like destroy their argument. And now I'm kind of
smashing the crystal.
It's such a dumb idea. But now I'm kind of the same way. I'm just like, I'll listen to what you're into. Like, it's fine. I'm not going to like, I don't want you to like force it on me, but like, I'm down to listen to it.
Hey, can I just hand you these crystals real quick? What are you forcing on me? Get this out of here. I think that you can't force crystallology on people. I've been to Mount Shasta, and that town is full of crystals and crystal shops. And if somebody was on the street handing out crystals like they do the Bibles, I would just take one and be like, oh.
Yeah. It's dangerous.
I don't want that.
You want to talk about podcasts?
My favorite podcast right now to watch is the Math Hoffa's My Expert Opinion. Have you been watching?
I have no idea.
So it's a hip hop podcast.
Okay.
But he's in a barbershop in Harlem.
That's cool.
And, you know, it feels like this Venn diagram of my New York hip hop childhood, my smack talk nonstop.
Yeah.
You know,
some good comedy in there.
Yeah. And then it's like philosophy like crazy, you know. So people tell funny music stories. They philosophize on, you know, what's a man, what's not a man, you know, what's an artist, what's not an artist.
What's it called? I'll have to check it out.
My Expert Opinion.
Expert.
Math Hoffa, like Jimmy Hoffa.
Okay.
But he's got the math.
Okay. I remember that Hoffa. I listen to a lot of podcasts, but they're all like strictly comedy, pretty much.
Oh my, yeah.
But that sounds like it's got a lot of comedy.
The Two Bears, One Cave. I don't like those guys.
Really?
I don't laugh at that one.
Okay. I'm not like a super fan, but I know a lot of people like that.
Conan Needs Friends. That one makes me laugh all the time.
Conan's podcast? Yeah. It took him a while to get going.
It did.
But they are good. I've listened to a lot of them.
You're right, though. In the beginning, you were like, I don't even think he wants to have a podcast.
He didn't. And he's one of those, like, he's clinging to the old late night stuff. But I'm glad he got it going. And, yeah. But tell the little story about how somebody was like, are you on a podcast or whatever?
I think I told it at the beginning, but...
Just in case.
I know. So this is what happened for real. I got stuck in the Newark airport, and I went over to the little bar to kill some time, and the woman sitting next to me made room so I could sit down, and she goes, oh my God, I got my camera, all this stuff, my bag is so heavy. I was like, oh, I got my camera too. And she's like, oh, you take pictures? Yeah, you take pictures. Oh, you make art? Oh, I make art. Oh, I'm from here. Oh, I'm from there. So she was from Portland, living in New York. I was from New York, living in Portland.
Okay.
And on, we just we saw all these things that we're the same on. And it was really funny to the both of us to be stuck in an airport with someone so similar to you, feeling like, I don't know, like maybe there for a reason or something like that, you know. But I'm not that much of a fatalist.
Really?
Yeah, I don't have a lot of that.
I'm a big fate guy, honestly.
Yeah, I don't have too much of that. I respect all things that come into focus, where it's like, I sat there and enjoyed talking to this person for a long time, you know. And she said at one point, she's like, my friend wants me to come on a podcast. You probably do podcasts. And I said, no, I've never done a podcast. And she said, you're so charming. It would seem so easy to talk to you.
Wow.
And I said, well, thank you. But my thing with anything to do with being on this side of the camera, you know, starts to feel like self-conscious.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to totally be like that, and somehow, I don't know if it's because I'm older now, or like, I just don't give a shit. Like, I'm like...
Yeah.
But I used to be the same way. I'd be like, I'll be on that side, and like, I don't care. But I don't know. I think I've been around them so long now. I'm just like, it's rolling, like whatever. Like, you know, like just as long as I'm in focus and everything, it's fine.
It's rolling. I don't know what I want to get out of it is a lot of my thing. So the only thing I ever do now is like put up something on Instagram once a week that's 60 seconds trying to make a little joke to my friends and family. Yeah. That's like my only shtick. And when I comes to, you know, talking about what you believe or where you're from or how you sort of get things in perspective, very few people really have ever asked me that shit, you know? It's kind of the funny part of I'm an uncle 22 times. I have been an entrepreneur my whole life. I've been in a field that people always want to talk to me about, like, how do I become, you know, employed as a creative, whatever. But there's very few opportunities, you know, to really share much about it, in the sense of people might call me or say, oh, my nephew, my niece, my cousin, somebody, and you have a conversation with them. But I found most of those are people trying to get a job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that's what you were going to say.
Yeah. I mean, I was like, thank you for the advice. Can I get a job?
Yeah.
You're like, no.
Like, tell me why you're really calling me. Yeah.
Can I see your reel? I think that that's one of my favorite pet peeves with the creative space too, is like making portfolios and making reels. I'm always like, that's such a trick shot, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's hard to tell. People ask me that, like I'll send one in and they're like, I can't tell, like, did you shoot all this? Did you edit? Like, what did you do? And people have different ways of doing that. Like, you can like subtitle it or credit it and stuff. But it is really...
That's what I did, the subtitles.
I made the subtitles, yeah.
Did you see the third transition? I recommended it. I think it's also just like, you know, you do things with the reel that really, you know, were for you, for your reel, right?
I
That's
see
like a known thing that you do. Yeah.
Like when you're doing a project, you're like, I'm doing this for the reel.
Yeah. Or when people do a portfolio and like all the stuff they feature is super minimal, super sparse, and a global brand. And you're like, yeah, sure, that's what went on. Because they put everything on to whatever thing you end up getting printed. You know, they're all jam full of crap. Nobody wants to.
Yeah.
You know, it's like retail store renderings. There's like this huge table and like a product, right? And then you go into a retail store and it's like consumers and tired salespeople and crap all over the place, even in the nicest ones.
Yeah. You know what I love about those renderings? It doesn't even have to be retail, but you always look at them, the people are like, it just looks so fake. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I understand it's a rendering, but
yeah. That's all those people who stand up straight and hold their hands like this.
Yeah, it's like they're like photoshopped like 2D in there or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, you know, also back to podcasts, I also love when people get that like hit in energy. Like Dame Dash was just on that Math Hoffa podcast, and I love Dame Dash because he's always cussing everybody out. He's always telling everybody, you know, up your game, get independent. You know, I think like Lex Fridman or
Lex is good.
Like when they connect on some energy level, right? Of like the guest and the host put something together. We're like, well, we got this fresh look at this person. You know, I always love that about comedians talking to comedians. Yeah, right, because it feels like these guys would never hang out with me. And you get to see how funny they are. You get to see like where their jokes and their real chemistry comes from. The Comedians in Cars, that one, I always felt like I liked it once it was familiar, because then I could remember a funny story that they told, like the one with Norm. You know, I went back to that because I was like, that was a day where he wasn't trying to just be the, you know, smart ass and trying to like ruin everybody's time and be goofy. He just had all these questions for Jerry, and it was a nice afternoon sort of thing.
Yeah. I'll have to go back because I've seen all those. I'm trying to remember that one, but I remember when he was on, he did one with Jay Leno too, and it was funny because he was just like, I didn't even think he had like a driver's license or something. He just like got in the car and he's like, I've never driven like in like years or something.
Well, the one with Jamie Foxx, so they're in New Orleans, and Jamie Foxx tells a story about his grandma loved Joe Williams, who's a jazz singer that I love. Okay. And very obscure, right? And so Jamie Foxx is telling the story about how Johnny never invites Joe Williams over to the couch. And his grandma was like, I wish he would just invite him over to the couch one time. And then this one episode, Johnny goes, come on over, Joe. And Joe's like, oh, what? And he trips on the microphone cord. Oh, shit. And he literally falls to the ground. And that was the moment. Jeez. They cut for time. He basically stands up and is like panting and embarrassed. And he gets like the little handshake, and they cut for time.
I was thinking maybe it would make it better, but I don't know. Well, this was like an era... I don't know when this was.
Oh, this is like 60s, 70s, yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they would never show something.
No, like it must have been 70s, 80s, yeah. Okay. But I had to go find that clip and watch it, and it was exactly as he said. And I felt so terrible because I love Joe Williams so much. And he felt to me like, damn, that's how life does you. Yeah. It trips you on the microphone cord.
The one moment you always wanted is like, fuck.
Yeah.
You know? It's funny because when you were talking about fate a second ago, I was going to ask you, have you ever heard, are you like are you into stoicism? Or do you know what that is and stuff?
Yeah, I know it is, yeah.
Because to me, I guess that's more where I live. Like, there's a lot of moments in my life I'm like, that's fate. And but I do agree with a lot of that stuff of like, I guess more of like dealing with problems of like stuff that comes in your path. It's just like, you got to deal with, like,
Yeah,
obstacles away and all that stuff.
My mentor used to be my college professor, and we became lifelong friends. And so outside of like, parents and stuff, he's a man I went to whenever things got challenging for me that were general.
Yeah.
I'd come up, talk to him about a lot of different stuff. And he's non-romantic. He's the least romantic. There's no pie in the sky, idealized, isn't that beautiful? Like, he would never use that language. He's very just by the book.
Neutral.
Yeah. And he's a Muslim, and he is always about value system in the test. And okay. he's like, that's just another test. That's just another test. Everything is just another test. Now, I could sit here and cry my eyes out about that, but that's what the test was. And if I don't like this test, Allah give me another one. And, and I like a lot of that philosophy because it puts things into the perspective of how do you want to deal with your adversity and your challenges? You get to choose that.
Yeah.
And I came from a place where people are always fighting, mad, partying hard, then just sort of like dust off the hangover and do the same dumb shit again, And I was glad to outgrow that. And it takes people to help you outgrow that, And it was also important always to have a value system because many people conflate that part of faith and religion where you're acting as though, let me look it up. What should I believe? But that's not what's happening. What's happening a lot of time is you're pre-programming. This is where these inputs are going to go if you deal with me, right? This is what I believe, right? I put loyalty first. So the people I'm loyal to, that's what's up. And if things go left, I'm going to stick with my team over loyalty, right? I'm not selfish or whatever your value system is. That's the way I feel about those decisions. You live an ethical life. You put your values into perspective, and then as those challenges come, there's sort of this pre-programming that's going to occur. And if you have a crap attitude and you have a lazy approach towards it, in certain times you're gonna lose. You're gonna lose the test.
Yeah.
You're gonna fail, and then you're gonna have to maybe take it again or get an even harder one. I think that's the irony of life: is a lot of shit doubles down on toughness.
Cool, man. I was gonna say you should check out one of my favorite podcasts is Are You Garbage? Have you ever heard that? It's like that is like an East Coast roasting type of show, and they just ask all this stuff. Basically, if you like how trashy you are as a person.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out.
It's hilarious though. But yeah, is there anything else you want to talk about? We can still talk.
Well, I was hoping to wear out my welcomes. You're
the longest guest I've had right now.
However much time I had to take.
But no, we should totally get you back and do the creative director thing if you want to do it.
All right, I will. I appreciate you. Let me come my hair, share my thoughts. I expect that some sort of editing occurs that makes me look fabulous. You know what I'm saying? My voice, my smile.
Some AI technology or something.
And I knew when you first invited me that, you were having a good podcast, and I wish you all the luck.
Thanks,
rooting
man.
for you, Andy.
Thanks, buddy. Like I said, I'm just very appreciative of all the first guests I'm having because, I don't know. It's just nice. Like, I appreciate all the support. It's hard when you're doing something like this. I'm losing a lot of money and this and not a ton of money, but yeah, I don't know. I just feel really supported by people like you and coming on and stuff.
100%. I knew that I was going to cost you a lot of money. I knew that.
Yeah, actually, you've been the biggest cost in
the
pipeline.
drain that I had, line item by line item. Peace.
Thanks, dude.